That's right, we're back. It's day 3 of our clean out process, and we've gotten some of our gold out of there, and we got our boards clean and everything else. And a lot of people don't talk about this, but it does take some time. A little bit of patience and a little bit of knowledge. And that's what we're here for, because we're learning. I screw up all the time. You guys fix it, and I love it. Those comments are coming in. You guys are telling me different things, your experiences, and that's great. Keep them coming. If you guys, so let's get this all set up. Again, this is part 3. If you haven't seen the first 2 parts, go back, check them out. I'll put them in their own playlist here as soon as I know exactly when it's going to be done. But unfortunately, I do live in northern Minnesota. Maybe I should know a little bit more about Celsius, but as it stands right now, I run Fahrenheit. So we're running about 48 degrees Fahrenheit in my shop, so that does control my process a little bit. So we'll get back over to the workbench and we'll get that all set up and see what's going on. All right, so we have all the clean boards here. People ask me about a weight, and unfortunately, I'm sorry, when I started doing that stock pot, I really didn't know I was going to be doing this whole tubing thing. So that was a surprise to me, actually, how much you guys really wanted to know. So unfortunately, I don't have a weight. I just have an assumption. There was a lot of boards from TVs and stuff in there, you know, really easy gold. You see the blue strips from like ribbon cables from the back of LED connectors in the TVs. So a majority of this actually came from random TVs like this. Yeah, I got a couple. I know. We were doing the series and we were going through them, and I'm getting back to it, and we'll have more of these TVs getting torn down because we got a lot of stuff. We got a lot of TVs and everything, but they're all kind of tucked away right at the moment because as soon as we get done with that stock pot, we're going to go back to the TVs and get some more food, start feeding that stock pot again, getting that sucker filled up so we can do the next extraction. So that's where all this stuff came from. So that's cool. You walk by them all the time, you know, watch my other videos. I don't have to go on about how easy it is, but it's truly easy. It's a really good place to start is with those TVs you just seen there. We went, and I had no idea that I was going to be cleaning this out as fast as I was, and that's okay. So this is actually going to have to go back in, and it's going to have to seed our stock pot, but that's fine. So I went and I filtered that stuff out, and I got the gold collected there. Let's get this set up a little better, and you guys can see a little more about what the last steps were if you hadn't watched the other videos. I urge you to go watch them, but if you don't, here we are at the end. All right, so as you guys can see, there's not a lot of fanfare when you're starting up your new stock pot. It looks pretty empty. There's no gold floating around in there, but we did filter everything out. We got everything filtered out, and that was nice. And now this is copper chloride, copper 2 chloride. However you want to pronounce it, that's what it is. This is a really good start because when you start off with just your plain muriatic acid, it takes a while for the train to get going down the tracks and for it to get going and doing its thing, and that's fine. But once you have this stuff, I actually will take a jar and I will take a little bit of it and I'll put it in a jar, and if I have to start a brand new process over, then I put a little bit of that in there and it jump starts a process. I don't have to use peroxide or anything else, which not only does it save me money, but then I don't have other chemicals in there. And I know everybody does the AP process, and I know this is probably just the same because the peroxide eventually disappears. It's just a catalyst. But why not use something you already have for free? So yeah, there's not a lot of glit and glamour and everything when you're starting up your stock pot over again, but it is important to make sure you don't have any material in there and make sure you know it's filtered and it's clean and it's ready to go. And if you notice my lines, that's why I put those lines on there. I did acquire a little bit, maybe about a half gallon of water in there, which is okay because then I topped off some more just to start the HCl a little, give it a little jump start in there, make sure that there wasn't nothing, and it looks good. It's that nice crisp clear emerald green, and it's ready to be waiting for some more boards to put in. So we're gonna get to that, but let's go over there and check out what that gold is doing over there. I just wanted to bring you guys in here for a second. I thought it was funny. A lot of people don't talk about the dirty truth about e-waste gold, but if you look, that's right. There's a hair in there. That's my gold, and Yeah, there's hair and whatever else in there. It disappears when you melt it down and everything. But yeah, there I was wondering what was in my gold and floating around. There's fuzz and everything else, and you know where it comes from? It comes from stuff like this. That's right. Eventually, if you go look at my other videos, that I know. But yeah, this is where I get my gold from. Is from computer scrap, consumer electronics, and it's pretty lucrative. It takes a little bit of time, a little bit of knowledge, but hey, if you want to learn, you're in the right spot. But yeah, there's a lot of hair, a lot of fuzz, a lot of stuff that people don't realize get collected on that stuff. And it will get transferred in your gold. And I've never heard anybody else talk about that particularly. I just found it funny myself that yes, gold is dirty. All right, so here's our dirty, hairy gold. Yeah, I have it in a container. You can see some stuff is floating around on top. And if you guys find that, you have issues with your gold floating around on the top and you want to bring it down through the water column, just get yourself a squirt bottle here. I use my rinse water over. Yeah, there is a little bit of copper chloride too, which actually is the color of blue. So when it's diluted down. But I reuse my rinse water, and you know what? I leave my gold in it, and it does nothing but help leach out any remaining base metals and stuff like that. So that's my little thing. I don't leave my gold uh, in a dry container and dry it up. I just leave it in a little bit of diluted copper chloride too, copper 2 chloride, and it will sit there as I'm collecting more and more of it. It will sit there and it'll help leach out any more remaining base metals. Don't have to worry about gluten in there apparently. So that's the way I store my gold until I decide I want to melt it down, which benefits me and it helps me. But yeah, so that's kind of how I take care of my gold. Everybody's got a slight different way they take care of theirs and what they do with it. I know there's some things you can't store wet and some things you can't store dry. That's for a fact. But as far as the gold goes, everybody has a different way of doing it. And that's kind of my way. And it's just a little tip, if you want to continue to leach out any base metals out of your gold, then put in a little diluted copper 2 chloride. All right, so we got the filtration here. So after you take your gold, there you go. After you take your gold and you get your big stuff out, we used a coffee filter basket, and we left the coffee filter out of it and just strained the stuff through there and collected all the big gold and put it in that jar over there. Because then when you start getting down to this fine sediment stuff inside of here, then it starts to clog up your filter. And it takes days and days if you're gravity filtering it. It sure does. But that's okay. Don't get impatient. Don't rush it and don't overflow it, because you're just going to be throwing gold out. And let's see if I can get in there. I'm not sure, but yeah, on the edge of that coffee filter, you can see a couple specks right on the edge of that coffee filter there. Anyways, so you got to pay attention. You got to watch. Your gold gets trapped and stuck on everything. It's got the surface tension of water will trap it. So when I do my rinses again, I have a really dilute copper 2 chloride. I know people use like jet dry and dishwashing liquid to break the surface tension of it, and I just found that this works for me. And also it keeps mine from freezing at the temperature I keep it. Now that only works for me, and I know what I'm doing as far as my temperature range goes. You do your research and do your own temperature range. But yeah, if you're not paying attention, there's gold everywhere. Now that piece of plastic helps seal the gold in there, and that's not going nowhere. We're getting that bag. That guy thinks he's leaving, but he ain't. He ain't going nowhere. Everybody gets in the pool around here. Ain't that right? Jump on in. So back to the filter. There's a whole lot of gold that you would not have actually seen if you didn't run it through the filter. Now, it took me 3 days, but I also filtered it 3 times. I ran it through first through just the mesh on that filter to pull out the big stuff. Then I ran it through a second time with just one filter to grab the smaller particulates. And then I ran it through a third time, and I got all the fine particulates with 2 filters. So now you could even go a fourth time if you wanted to, and you could take that solution over there, and you can come back over here and stuff a bunch of cotton into the bottom of a funnel, and you could filter it that way too. and get a fourth extraction out of there, or a fourth filtration, whatever you want to call it. I'm not going that far because I know that stuff is not going nowhere in there, and that guy's staying there. Yeah, Wubbs, he had to get off the workbench. It wasn't safe for him to be over here around this stuff, so he's not happy. But we'll get him back up here. Anyways, yeah, so you can do a fourth filtration, but it's just, I was getting tired and I just wanted to get this out, but I wanted to make sure that the footage and everything I got was helpful for you guys, because you guys ain't going to come back if you don't learn something or it ain't valuable information for you. And that leads me to, yes, if you guys are new here and you learned something, go hit that channel up, go hit that like, share, and subscribe button. And for all my returning people, I absolutely appreciate it because I'm learning a lot from you guys as well. So back to this filter. Yeah, it's green because it's got your copper 2 chloride in there. And so basically all you do in order to clean that out is if you gently run around with your spray bottle here, and you can you kind of spray that gold down, and it's hard to do one-handed, but we'll get there. You spray that gold down and it'll go out of your filter, or go down your filter and be collected. Sorry, I'm trying to pay attention to spraying and talking at the same time. Anyways, so and once I got gloves on, you unfold the little folds and you keep spraying her down a little bit and spraying her down. And you know, the thing about using your rinse water over and over is that with the copper 2 chloride being present in your water, then you know that it's just actually sitting there and helping you break down any base metals that are left behind. And also you reuse your rinse water. And if that's not for you and you don't want to do it that way, that's on you. I just find that I bring 1 gallon of water out, and it costs money for distilled water in certain places. I make my own, but and yeah, so why not keep using it over and over and over? But I'm going to get gloved up here, and I'm going to be able to move those folds around because you can see there's just gold just tucked all up underneath that fold. So let me get something, and we're going to look underneath of there. All right, so again, this stuff is still corrosive even though it's diluted. So, you know, hand protection, gloves, there we go, gloves. And nothing you really care about. A lot of people use wood. I've noticed that the wood actually soaks up the liquid and will pull some of the microfine gold up, and it's not a lot, but I don't like using that for this. Anyways, don't use something you care about. This is all right. It's one of my scrapping screwdrivers, flat blade, and it'll be fine. But if you put a fancy new screwdriver in here, it's going to yeah, it's going to be bad. But look at all that gold that was hiding underneath there, and there it is. And you just go around and you spray all that mud back down into your filter there, and just let her sit until she dries out. All right, so we got the, excuse me, we got the filter all cleaned off there, and in person, it looks purple. And I know Mike down there in Florida had mentioned, you know, talking about the color royal purple. Well, he's right. He's right. The color of gold is purple. And it's hard to see until you see it really, you know, in person. But that brown sludge or that dark gray sludge down there is purple gold. And that's all the gold that's sitting in the filter. I know, my silly light. I got to figure out a better way for it. I promise I will. We're getting there. But yeah, that's all gold sitting down there. And the reason why it's gold and not just mud and muck and base metals and everything else is because, again, we put it and we let it soak in our stock pot over there, and that's what its job is supposed to do. Is it's supposed to get rid of all the base metals. And this filter is going to take, I have no idea how long it's going to take to filter that down, but we'll get a shot of it after it gets done. And then here's the coffee filter basket. Yeah, for you guys that don't know, I use a coffee filter basket because it's already been designed to filter. I use the coffee pots for the hot plates when I'm doing a hot process, and I use the filters to help filter out, you know, it's a cheap form of a Buckner funnel. It has those ridges so that your filter doesn't get stuck on the side. It kind of gives it surface area so that then it better filtrates. And that's the way it's designed. So that's what I use right now. Maybe one day I'll get myself a fancy vacuum flask and Buckner funnel. Yeah, that's hard to say. But right now I actually have a weed sprayer. and I have a hand pump, and I pull a vacuum on it, and I drop it down in there, and that's my vacuum filtration. So that's what I use for mine. I know everybody else has a flasks and everything else. Yeah, especially with you working with different acids. But for this process, for what we're doing right now, this is more than adequate, and it's easily obtainable. Everything I've done is easily obtainable in most U.S. areas. I'm not sure about you guys over the pond there. I don't know if that's an expression. Is that? Or you guys up in Canada there? I'm not sure what you can and can't get. That I haven't looked into. But for the most part, where I'm at, all these things I've got literally at the local hardware store. But yeah, so coffee makers, coffee filters. And cheap sprayers, spray bottles, plastic containers, you name it. If you can use it, then why not? I'll get a better jar, but hey, this is a ketchup bottle. Not that it was used for ketchup, because I don't want the vinegar in my process. And yes, stuff will stay inside of your plastic, so if you use it for one thing, do not use it for another. But let's see what's going on with that filter, because it takes a while. It really does. But I know that's going to filter out, and that's going to look good, and that's going to be nice. It looks a heck of a lot better than my other stuff. Let's go over to what I like to call the Wheel of Misfortune. Yeah, that's right. So these were my other beginning experiments, small scale experiments. And I did that one, and I formed manacetic acid because I got chlorine in my water. And yeah, not good. I got some suggestions to take care of that. And I will, as we get further into the process, maybe I can unlock that gold in there, because there is gold locked in that thing. And there's not a lot I can do about it. And I also realized that, yeah, coffee filters work good, but when it's cold. If you try to do a hot process, you're going to melt that coffee filter, dissolve it, whatever you want to call it. Second time, that I ended up making copper nitrate, I keep calling it. The color blue, because unless it's silver nitrate, because I introduced again chlorine to my water, and I screwed up, and I didn't learn my lessons from this guy, and ended up with that. And now the gold is trapped. I can't even see the gold, so I'm pretty sure I formed aqua regia and dissolved stuff and did terrible things to that. I explained it a little more in the other videos, but that's a recap. This was my third experiment, which looks a lot better, and it looks good, and you can see the gold in there, but you got the conformal coating trapped in there, and that's all right. I got some suggestions about that, and I was thinking about that, and honestly, what do we do to get the conformal coating off of a board before we put it into our muriatic acid? Well, we soak it in lye. Does nothing to the board, does nothing to anything else. We just boil it in a little lye, and it takes that green stuff, dissolves that green stuff out. So I think we may try that. If anybody's watching this and has an absolute suggestion not to do that, then please feel free to leave a comment and let me know that is the wrong route. But I don't know what it's going to do to the filter, so I think I'm going to knock everything off the filter and just put the filter in my filter paper storage. Thank you. Yes. Anyways, so this does look a heck of a lot better than all three of those combined. So there's kind of a split shot. Looks like it's very nice, clean gold. I'm learning as I go, just like you guys are. And yeah, the important thing is you learn from your mistakes. If you're still doing this every time you do an extraction, and you're not moving forward, then something is severely wrong with the process. And that's just it, because, I know 2 + 2 doesn't always mean 4 in some weird math, but I tell you what, the acids you work with, if they always stay the same, and your temperature you're working with always stays the same, then the only variable in this whole process is the material you're working with. So know your material. Know what you're doing. Knowing what you're working with is half the battle. And trusting the process. Just know that this can't form an opinion against you and decide not to work. This stuff is going to work at a temperature that it's supposed to work regardless. And we know that increasing or lowering the temperature of different things either speed up the reaction, slow the reaction down, or will cause a runaway reaction, which if you guys are watching this video, you probably already heard that term. And if you haven't, that means an unexpected reaction happening inside of your vessel, your jar, your stock pot. And if you drop something like aluminum inside of that stock pot, it's going to cause it to literally start boiling out of there. And there's not going to be much you can do about it. Now, I have a complete seal all the way around in through here. You can see this whole thing is sealed up all nice. Yeah, there's a reason why I actually turned an old dishwasher into my fume hood. It's because it's sealed all around. So if a runaway reaction were to happen, I take my hood and I step back and it will flow down, and I actually have a hole down there that actually flows down into a catch pan that's down underneath of there. So it gives me a minute. So preparing for the worst is important. Pay attention to what you're doing. Pay attention to what you're putting in that pot. Because if you just go and you willy-nilly start throwing stuff in there, you're going to have a bad day. Your wife ain't going to be happy. Your husband ain't going to be happy. You probably definitely are not going to be happy. So with that, we're going to wait for this to filter and figure out what's happening. All right, so here we are over at the fume hood. And it's going to take a little while to filter, but you can see that all that gold is pretty thick in there. Looks pretty nice. It's gonna take a while to dry out. And I know people be like, you can put it in a pan and dry it out. Yeah, I'm actually more interested in letting it dry out safely in the filter, and then just folding the filter up like you see in my other ones, and I'll put it in its own container, and I will call this a successful extraction as far as that goes. So while I'm sitting there waiting for that to filter, I was wondering, what are we going to feed the stock pot? What are we going to put in there to start the stuff? So I had thought, why not take some of my TV boards? And I've got boards out of the back of TVs. Got some gold flashing on them. And why not take this stuff? It's everywhere. It's everywhere. Yeah, I don't know much about the white. I haven't seen to have a problem with the white backing on it. The stickers, I do take the stickers off. So, yeah, and you get it everywhere. You find it everywhere. I got other videos on it, and if you don't want to go watch them, well, these come out of TVs, and these come out of computers, and these come out of printers, and anything and everything you can imagine has some form of gold on it. That's a controller. Yeah, that's got some gold stuff on it, but that more has the IC chip and things like that. We're going to feed the stock pot this stuff. So while I wait for all that stuff to get filtering over there, I'm going to take my Depot box. Yeah, I have video on it. Maybe I'll remake the video. I don't know. It was pretty dry. I can't help it. When you start doing things you don't know, you're just trying to get information across that you do know, and you're not sure how to do it. But we're figuring it out. So I'm going to take my Depot box, and I'm going to clean up that stuff so there isn't as much muck into our stock pot over there. So I'm going to do that while we wait for that to finish filtering, and we'll get back here. So I just wanted to bring you guys in here quick while I was cleaning those boards off. I don't come across them a lot, but if you look there, that is actually that's a gold-plated screw. And I know people are going to say it's brass, but no, it actually makes a connection on the back. It's a grounding pad. See that grounding pad back there? But that is actually a gold-plated screw. And if you weren't paying attention, you would just throw that out thinking it was brass. And it doesn't make sense to just get rid of your gold. It really doesn't. And so here's another one on this side. That's not just brass. That's gold-plated screw. So, and if you don't believe me, bring your stuff to me and I'll take it for free. And I'll throw up my stock pot over there. See that little gold connector? Yeah, it's not a lot. When I zoom out, yeah, that's a tiny little guy. You wouldn't even know. He's a little guy. But hey, it all counts. And it all gets put in that stock pot over there because we don't discriminate here. So as I was going through these boards and I was checking out the TV boards, yeah, you get a lot of them get these little connectors and stuff on them. And they actually do have quite a bit of gold in them. I know people will try to incinerate them and they melt and they lock their gold in. Other people crush them, and I don't know, there's a few people I know that just leave them in and they use that gold dex, or I'm not sure. But for me, low and slow, set it, forget it. So we actually cleaned off all of them because, yeah, they're going to actually take a little while. And in fact, they'll take longer to get the gold out of these pins here than there will probably out of that whole pile of boards, because the flashing on a gold board comes off pretty easy. But this stuff, it takes a little while for the acids to get through the base metals and to liberate the gold. But I tell you what, if you do it right, what ends up in your filter is this. That's where a majority of this gold came from, was all those plastic rail pins, or whatever you want to call them. They're just connectors, ribbon cable connectors. And yeah, it's really fine gold, but hey, it adds up after a little while. It sure does. And that's where some of this comes from. Some of the bigger stuff in here is more of like legs and little pins and stuff like that. But a lot of the dark brown, what looks brown, which is really actually purple, that is the little fine, microfine gold that comes off of those pins. So yeah, it's there, but it takes a while to get it. And then one last thing, I don't know if you can see that. I know it looks dark, but that's gold. That's in the end of my, yeah, it's clean. It isn't dirty right now, but that's just plastic. But that's gold in the end of my bubbler hose here. Yeah, the way my setup is, apparently I found a way to slowly and meticulously extract the gold through, maybe it went into that hole, and as the air was coming out of the hole, it like caused a siphon effect that caused the gold to collect in there. There we go. All right, so it holds my bubbler hose. That's just water. No, that's not condensation or anything evaporating. Yeah, that's a little acid on there. You got to make sure you wipe this down and keep this clean. But that's about it right there. And I go, and so that I could take it in and out, because you know what you guys don't see is I have a catch bucket that I put this jar in every night. And I make sure that, you know, some crazy happens, that nothing happens to it. Because if you work on something for months and months and months, and you come out here and your jar is split in half, or you see a slow leak that has managed to leak all your gold out, you're going to be really disappointed. So I do tuck that in bed every night. So in order to do that, instead of messing around trying to pull that hose out and everything, I actually have on my bubbler, I have some ticky tacky for like your on your posters. And I know people are like, well, why? No, I took a trick from the old moonshiners. And when they make their stuff, they got to be able to, you know, they make a little paste and they put it around the connectors so that it's not a permanent seal. They can break it down, they can clean it, they can do what they want to it, and then they just put it back in there. And let's see if I don't think I can do that through the viewfinder. I really don't think I can. There we go. As you see, it makes the connection, it seals it up nicely. It's the only thing I found that will hold up to you know, the acidic environment, although it's not you know, terribly acidic out here, out in this environment. There's still something. So that's what I found, and that supplies my oxygen. That oxygen starts going, that gets that copper 2 chloride start working, gets the everything going, and that's it right there. That is my setup. Simple as that. I put in $7 into that 6 months ago, 5 months ago, into the base material I needed to start with, and that's it. So everything you guys are seeing, if you're new to the channel, is free. My whole shop has been for free. Everything I get is for free. I find and I figure out, and yes, it's messy, I know, because we're in the middle of this extraction. Even that heater is free. Everything is free in here, and that's what I like to do around here, is I try to get stuff for free. And if you get it for free, or you do it for free, then all of your gold you're going to get is going to be gravy on top of your potatoes. So this is a stockpot offering. It's going to take a while for them to get out, and I'm not sure how long we should wait. I'm thinking we should get I don't know, you guys, what should I do? Because, you know, I didn't think I was going to get to 100 subs as quick as we did, and now we've doubled that. So now I'm not sure if we should shoot for the moon or if what. But so maybe next video we'll talk about how long we should let this sit for, because I don't mind you guys controlling that, because we can always throw the stuff back in there after we get what gold is out of there and put it back in and let her go again. So that's fine. But like I did before, I'm gonna, you know, offer something to the stock pot every night, and we're gonna put it in there. And people want me to get a weight on it, and I'm just not sure. I mean, there's gonna be more and more stuff, and I've got enough notes in my head already. So if you guys are playing along at home, go ahead, go get your TV things. Go ahead, do your thing. And for all you guys that are just watching one off, I do appreciate your views, and I appreciate you coming to check it out. And there's my stockpot offering for the night. We got that sucker up and going. That's super fantastic. I'm super excited to see where this is gonna go, because you just never, ever know. You never know. Last time, you should have seen some of the boards I put in there last time. In fact, if you go look at the stockpot evolution from 1 to 100, you'll see all the stuff I put into that sucker. And man, some of that stuff looked just nice. So with that being said, you guys go and you hit that button. You guys have been doing it. I didn't mention it in a couple videos, and I got nothing from it. So I tell you what, I gotta say it at the end of every video. And you guys know I'm unscripted, I stumble and whatever, but hey, we did it. That's a successful extraction. I'm gonna get that stuff dried out. We're gonna get it weighed up and melted and see exactly what we got out of there from some free TVs and nothing but a little time from you and me. And so with that being said, thanks for watching. If my wife is watching this, I love you. And if my kids are watching, go wash your face.